You got to get around some people that are going to push you. If you don't like this interview right now, dude, then I'm your guy. You can't like your coach. Okay, I'm not a therapist. You need somebody that will bump you. You need somebody that'll push you up. And I felt like a punk, dude. Like I felt like, oh, I'm a businessman. I walked into a meeting with Goldman Sachs with a billionaire. At that time, I was probably worth, I don't know, 80 million bucks. Dude, they didn't pay attention to me. I was not even there, okay? I could have walked in with a heart on and no pants. They wouldn't even have recognized that I was there. I was no one. And that was like, when I walked into the Goldman Sachs building and I saw their elevators, one elevator was bigger than my office. I was like, what the f have I been thinking, man? Okay. Now at that time I owned a bunch of real estate, but I refused to manage other people's money. All these people, all these little players, my accountant, my lawyer said, don't manage other people's money. Don't take other people's money. Don't let other people invest with you. It's a problem. Leave other people's money alone, man. Don't get too big. All these other people. Then I walk in the Goldman Sachs building. I'm like, how'd they build this place? They raised other people's money. They had people working in that building that made more money working for Goldman Sachs than I made working for myself. I'm like, what the f have I been thinking? You know, Blackstone this week, I think it was last week actually now, they raised $20 billion in 72 hours. I want to be a real player. If you want to be a real player, you cannot get advice from little players. You can't be a whale and act like krill. Yeah, you can show off like a little clownfish, but you got to remember you can't leave the anemone because somebody's going to eat your ass up. Bro, you got to change the questions you're asking yourself. If you start in sales, okay, good. Get great at sales, but at some point you got to start asking questions about business, not sales, and not get comfortable in any one lane. That means you're always taking new risk. Like I'm having to take new risk all the time. I'm having to reach out and meet new people. I'm having to be in new interviews, ask new questions.
How do you filter out? How did you know this is bad advice versus this is good advice? I should listen to this person. I should ignore what this other person's telling me.
I'm careful about who I study. And then when I find somebody, I'm like, okay, I like this person. I want to study them. I don't just take data from them without taking a look at the data. Howard Schultz is famous for saying one of the things that he believes in is don't advertise. He's a multi-billionaire. Took an idea called Starbucks. It's a world-recognized brand today, one of the most valuable brands in the world. He says, do not advertise, okay? I saw this morning. And I'm like, Howard says, yeah, I've seen that before. What does that really mean? Does that mean I should not advertise? And I'm like, wait a minute. He doesn't spend money on advertising, okay? But he buys the best locations in New York City to put his stores on. In Miami, the best locations possible. Houston, Texas, best locations possible. Tokyo, Japan, best locations. He will pay more money for a lease to make sure he gets traffic he needs. That is a form of advertising. In fact, it's cheaper for me to buy some space on Facebook than it is for me to buy a Fifth Avenue and 43rd Street. So he is advertising, okay? Also, number two, for him to become the president of the United States, which he dropped out of, he would have to advertise, and he didn't, so he had to drop out. So just because a guy's super successful, and just because he has a piece of data, doesn't mean you want to just drink it, eat it, without first studying it. If you're Lay's potato chips, you need to advertise. If you're Nike, you better advertise. If you're a small entrepreneur, you need to get the whole world to know you, you must advertise. This is a mistake I made for 20 years. Not marketing, not advertising, holding on to money. I don't want to spend it because I was a little player. And the reality is if nobody knows me, they can never trust me. Yeah, and what I did for 25 years is I just tried to get people to trust me. The first thing I did was I made a different mistake than that. I thought if people just saw how good my product was, I'd be good. So I spent years with this idea that I had the best product and that was going to do it. That was a mistake. Then I'm like, okay, now I need to get people to trust me. Well, that was actually a mistake too. I need to get people to know me because if they don't know me in an industry, my product doesn't matter and they'll never trust me. We all see signs of best product getting beat all the time. So just because you have the best product does not mean you're going to get the most business. You have to get known. I've spent the last 8 years, well, I didn't have an Instagram account 8 years ago. Nobody did. I didn't have a Facebook account. Facebook had just come out. I started a YouTube account, I think 11 years ago. So I didn't know how to do a YouTube video. I didn't have a subscriber to any of these channels. I didn't have a Twitter account. So hey, how do I get known? Make a list. Who do I want to know me? Okay. We probably spend $1 million a month in monetary exchange for ads today.
How do you stand out when you're creating all this content? There's so much noise now on social media.
Frequency. You got to be frequent. It's not how unique your content is in the beginning. People have to trust that you're going to be there. In the beginning, they actually have to be a little shocked that you keep showing up. Because a lot of people are just they're buying bullshit likes. I'm glad the likes are going to go away. It's going to destroy people, man. It's going to kill them. These guys on Instagram, they got to get their likes. It's going to crush them, okay? Because it doesn't mean anything. Like, you got to build a real following of people. This is the way it was 100 years ago. You got to build a following. And you want to build an army? If you're going to take over some part of the world 1,000 years ago, you needed an army. People need to know that you're serious, and they need to know that you're a threat. LeBron can roll by himself. He shows up, everybody watches him. You're lost in the crowd. Nobody sees you. You can't even see yourself anymore. You got to become a star. Okay, I look up in the sky at night, man. My eyes always go to the brightest star in the sky. And that's not going to change. It's not going to change because your race, color, religion. You got to be the brightest star in the room. Otherwise, you're going to get overlooked. Let's use Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett never talks about his $38,000 house. One house he's bought his whole life. He's investing money in companies. Most Americans, the biggest investment they make in their life is to buy a house. Most entrepreneurs have more equity in their homes than they do their businesses. Put more money down on their house than they do their advertising budget. Spent more money on furniture and paint and roofs and appliances than they do their staff or their furniture.
What can they do to start taking action or to implement something we've talked about?
Oh man, there'd be a lot of things you could do right now. One, how much money do you have in a savings account? Get rid of all of it. Don't save any money. Retirement account, take it all out. Start spending your money. Like, you got to shift everything, man. By definition, an entrepreneur is someone that puts time and money at risk in order to have more time and money. I would look at, why are you saving money? People save money because they're playing it safe. And now somebody watching this is going to be like, well, don't I need an emergency fund? I don't know. Maybe you do need an emergency fund. What you need to do is build your damn business so it'll take care of you in emergencies.
Build cash flow so that you have
cash
recurring
flow,
income stream.
Yeah, exactly. Cash flow. Spend money so you can have money in time.